Hi, everyone. Welcome back to Mindset Teaching Outside the Box. We are your hosts, Jillian Willie.
And Eileen Edwards.
And today we have a super special, unique episode for you all. We are live in virtual reality with an amazing guest, Jeremy Nickel.
Yes, I'm
Hello.
very
So glad to be here.
excited to be in this virtual or VR space. And Jeremy Nickel, we are definitely delighted to have you here with us today. Jeremy is the founder and CEO of EvolVR.org, which is a nonprofit organization that offers social meditation in virtual reality. Evolver has been mentioned actually on quite a few of our episodes previously, whether it was for their meditations or the spiritual community that it provides. Jeremy is a lifelong spiritual adventurer and entrepreneur. After seminary at Berkeley and jobs in the tech world, Reverend Jeremy served 7 years as a minister. He left in 2017 to launch Evolver. And boy, is the Evolver community grateful for that, including Jillian and myself. And then when unplugged from his work in VR, he enjoys time with his family and out in nature. Jeremy, is there anything else that you would like to share with our viewers about you?
I would just say the spiritual adventure part is the biggest focus for me. I realized at a really young age that I wasn't necessarily looking for a destination for my spiritual adventure, but I was looking for a lot of fellow travelers, people who are equally interested in talking, sharing truths, ideas, concepts, without getting insulted when someone had a different idea. Like just being able to share curiously and freely. And I've found different spaces that allowed for that, but none that were exactly what I was looking for. And so that's really what Evolver was about. Was selfishly, I wanted a place where I could create a container where lots of amazing spiritual adventurers, people who were meditation leaders or into prayer or aliens or so many different aspects of the big questions we have, that we could all come together and have a space to do that in. And so I'm just grateful it's unfolded the way it has.
Yes, are we?
That's
Well, thank you for having
incredible.
me.
Yeah, thank you for being here. And this space is very unique. For anyone who hasn't experienced VR, it's mind-blowing. It's magical. So,
Yes.
how did you, if I may start with a question,
Yeah.
how did you like really get this up and running? I mean, what were your like first steps?
Yeah, I mean, there has been a thousand steps. So I went to seminary and became an ordained Unitarian Universalist minister, which is an interfaith denomination, is the easiest way, although that's totally oversimplified and not completely true. There's people of no faith at all, atheists, agnostics, humanists, Buddhists, people who just want to come and be with people. And I led a brick and mortar real life community for 7 years. I learned a lot from that, about how to build community. I still felt really limited by the expectations that people brought when they came to this community. Even though it was interfaith, it still felt like the expectations were very traditional in a lot of ways, in terms of the services that we were expected to produce on Sundays, and the different offerings that we were expected to give through the week. And so I was looking for a space that would be free from those expectations. And I've always been very tech focused as well as on this spiritual adventure. And I have a brother-in-law who's also very tech involved, and he asked me to help him with a VR project. He needed someone to host demos in the Bay Area for him. He's up in Seattle. Me and my dad, who a lot of you have met through Evolver as well, helped him host those demos, and we saw the same thing over and over again. We were really just doing it at first to play with fun new toys, but um, over and over again, these hot shots from the tech world would come into the demo, and at first they'd be bad mouthing VR. I've been to this demo 7 times in the last 20 years, and VR is never ready. This was 5 years ago, right when the new generation of headsets were being made, the CV1 and the early Rift, and we'd put these naysayers in the headsets. And a minute later, they'd be throwing a football with my brother-in-law in Seattle and just shooting the breeze. And 20 minutes later, they'd get out of the headset, and every single one of them would say, like, "Wow, it's like I was with them. Wow, it was like we were together. Wow, it was like we were all really there." And I am not the smartest person in any room ever, but I'll get it eventually. And I heard that enough times that the light bulb finally went off over my head that like people are gathering and feeling shared presence in virtual reality. And that's the magic ingredient for spiritual community. You got to feel like you're together. You got to feel like you're really with people. And as you know, we have bodies in here, and we
Yeah.
we feel that we are physically present with each other. And so um, I was still serving a Unitarian Universalist congregation in the Bay Area, but after that realization, I pretty quickly started to raise money so that I could leave that job and start focusing full time on trying to create some kind of space in virtual reality where people could explore. And there's a million little steps. I mean, I called every human being I knew and told them about my idea and asked them if there's anyone I should talk to, and got secondary people I should talk to and talked to all of them and asked them if there was anyone I should talk to, and raised money. And really it was about just starting to lead meditation sessions in alt space. Just that's it. I'm not the greatest session leader. I've now replaced myself with amazing trained session leaders, but I've learned how to lead different kinds of meditations through my training, and I started doing that in alt space, and people came. People were super interested, and so that was really the kernel of it. Finding Alan, who is the person who developed this space, Alan Chow. I'm not gifted at the space design, which is really important for what we do, and so I struggled for the first year and a half of the project to find a partner, a creative partner to work with. And when I found Alan, that really opened up a lot of stuff. Discord server, we started that 2.5 or so years ago. And that was another thing where, we see each other in VR. A lot of us semi regularly, maybe like, 4 or 5 times a week, maybe even more, some less. The Discord server, like it's in your pocket all the time. You're sitting waiting for something in real life to happen. You can just pull out your phone and jump on there and chat with your friends. That was another really important step along the way of building this community. And then I guess the last one I'll share is COVID. I mean, it's been a mess for so many reasons and terrible for so many reasons, but there's no question that it forced people to be indoors, and it forced people into isolation and anxiety, and they were looking for social, and they were looking for cures for anxiety, and we were right in the intersection of all that. Come be with people, meditate, build the muscle of anti-anxiety that is truly the greatest muscle you can build for that. And so I think over the last year and a half, however you want to exactly measure that, a lot of people, a lot of really awesome people have found us. And so here we are.
Wow, that is such an
Goosebumps.
inspirational story. Yeah, that's amazing. Thank you for
Mm.
sharing that.
And you mentioned, Jeremy, that shared space, that like
Yeah.
shared energy. So like Jillian and I are fairly close. We're both on the East Coast and probably only 20, 30 minutes from one another, driving distance from one another.
Right.
But you are on the other side of the country. And I agree that when we're in meditation, that space, you feel that like collective energy. So our members that come here through alt space, who come to our sessions, um, come from all over the world, and they sit in meditation with us, and it's like as if they're sitting right there with you.
Yeah.
You still feel that same energy that you would had you been sitting next to them in person. That energy just travels the globe. Um, could you tell us a bit more, maybe, about your personal meditation practice or practices that I'm sure you have?
Yeah, nice segue actually from where you were just going with that too. When I was 14 or so, I started meditating because I was a really spazzy little kid. I should just say that. And really, my dad, he was always meditating. It was a big part of his life for my whole life. And so he would teach me from a very young age, I don't even know, 2 or 3, some kind of like progressive body scan relaxation to sleep. It was just a lot of parents do, I think, with their kids. And so that's the first place that I started. And I still, to this day, when I can't sleep, will use almost the exact same body scan my dad would do for me back then. But as I got older and I was, like I said, a spazzy 10, 11, 12-year-old, I think my dad offered at some point meditation to me as another tool to kind of drop into my body in a more conscious, mindful way. And so it's not like I suddenly became a regular meditator, but it planted seeds. There were all these little seeds planted through my childhood. And I would meditate at times, but it was more like a preparation for something that could be discovered later. Um, and so when I was in high school, it was early in high school, 13 or 14, something like that. I met this Quaker youth group I got into through a camp I went to, and the Quakers are like the coolest people in the world, I think. They're just amazing. The liberal Quakers, the conservative Quakers are nuts, like most conservative religious people, but liberal Quakers are amazing. And I was welcomed into this youth group at a time when I was really fragile. And one of the things Quakers do a lot is sit in silence. They don't call it meditation. Um, it's the same thing. They sit in silence together, and they have ways of in groups really letting that energy crackle between them. And that's the first time I ever felt that, where I was in a room of multiple people, and it was mostly other kids like me, and it was so amazing to feel that energy like you were talking about when you're physically in that state with other people and you can just feel the energy flowing between people. So all these seeds. I took a year off between high school and college and traveled around the world with my cousin, and a whole bunch of that time, about half of the year, was spent living in Nepal, in Kathmandu. And I lived with a Tibetan Buddhist family, studied in a program with Tibetan monks, and that was where my practice really started to blossom, where I was invited into daily, regular practice with thought out processes to go through and different techniques. Um, and so that was probably, I would say, the end of the seed planting and the beginning of the blossoming of my practice. Since then, I have practiced regularly. I mean, everyone wanes sometimes, but I would say I've meditated, at least once a day for most of my life since then. It's an extremely important part of how I prepare for the day, how I respond to certain kinds of emotions and experiences. And I have a practice that's all my own at this point. That's kind of brought together different pieces from what I've done. That's just kind of a really personal process. And um, if I get away from it for more than a couple days, it's not good for my mental health. So I try not to.
Hmm. Wow, that's so
Mhm.
cool. All those different life
Resonates with me.
experiences, and I think it's such a good thing to mention that you have to do what works for you, because so many people, I know for me in the beginning of my meditation journey, I tried to make what other people did fit for me, but you really do have to kind of pull from the things that you like that work for you to create your own thing. So I think that's really good to mention. Um, and what about, I know you have a family of a daughter. What do you do or have you done to start teaching her to meditate or plant seeds?
So my wife is a UCC minister, and she has a meditation practice herself that is very important to her. And so my daughter has seen us meditating literally her entire life. And my dad, Tom, who I mentioned before, and is part of EvolVR, he is a very public meditator intentionally, I think. He will often meditate where people can kind of see that he's meditating, and I think it it's a seed planting exercise. When kids see that all the time, it's just something normal for them. And so with my daughter,
Mhm.
I think similarly to the way that my dad approached my life and meditation, I we've never told her, this is something you have to do. She has many times come to us when we're meditating and asked to join us, and we will take full advantage of any of those invitations. And we will find her sometimes just sitting in meditation by herself, and she's really learned how to use it as a centering tool for herself. She's 10 now, so I think that's like a huge bonus in life to be a 10-year-old who already is starting to build that muscle, because we
Mhm.
know that life will knock us off center. That's just a guarantee, early and often, and how we respond to it is how quick can we bring ourselves back there with those tools. So we encourage that and we talk about it, and something that I really hope to continue to welcome her into in more and more ways. But yeah, we think of that as one of the most important tools we could give her, really.
Mhm.
I love that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And especially at that age, you know, 10 years
Yeah,
old,
yeah,
pre-teen. And I have one of my own here who's 12. And a lot of the practice, a lot of what Jillian and I have been talking with our viewers about is that idea of being a role model as the teacher or as the
yes,
parent, you know, just that alone, showing the way without necessarily actively teaching, then
Mhm.
role modeling for them is so important. Um, I
Mhm.
I love that. And I
yeah. I
actually
mean, we
had an
know with our
additional question
kids,
about that when you're finished.
well, we know with our kids that what we say to them has very little, influence, but what they see us do over and over and over again has just tremendous influence, unconscious and conscious. So, yeah, just to echo that.
Absolutely. So my additional question that has to relate to kids is we know that this world of, the Volver and VR and our Oculus headsets, which people can't see at the moment, but we are wearing, and Altspace, the app that we use for all of this, all of it is so new. And I know that we're typically the technology that we're using is typically being geared towards people who are maybe 13 and older. So, what do you imagine could be possible in VR for teens or parents or even teachers that are watching this right now?
Yeah, no, I think first the sensitivity to the forming brain is really important. Obviously, a
Exactly.
person who's not 18 is their brain is just different. And so we are really sensitive in our house. That 13 minimum, my kid's 10. She's allowed in VR, but in very monitored short term, like Beat Saber for 30 minutes at the most kind of thing. Not in communities where she can just run into people and start
Yes.
talking to random strangers. So there's all that learning and education that just has to go into the safe use of these tools. And because VR is so new, we don't understand it. So I think being conservative is the best way to approach it. I don't think it would be healthy for a 13-year-old to spend a lot of hours regularly in VR. I think that would do things that we didn't want to their forming brain. All that being said, is a really powerful tool for education, for teaching about compassion. People have called it a compassion machine, an empathy machine. The way that you can use it to really walk in other people's shoes or to experience things that you could never experience before. Um, so I don't know if any of you have used the app Rec Room. I know you have, Eileen, because I
Oh,
invited you
yes.
to. Um, and you found a little Lord of the Flies, maybe.
Yeah.
I is that accurate? It's a Rec Room is an app that's really aimed at kids and games. Like you can go and play lots of tons of games with your friends there. Um, you get your own little kind of, I think they call it your clubhouse or something. You get your own little room like you do in most of these places, and you can.
Yeah,
So my
dorm.
daughter's allowed to go into that part of Rec Room, that little your own room thing, and you can change your clothes and you can do lots of little things in there. So she does that. one time she was in there playing with it, and like kids do, she just put it down. She didn't like close out the game and turn it all off, right? And I assumed I had left it like that, so I just put it on, started playing Rec Room. I leave that little clubhouse space, and her avatar, which is set to look like at that point, I think like an 8-year-old girl. And when I start being out in public, I start experiencing something I've never experienced in VR before, which is like a whole lot of sexualized crass comments, um, like people physically entering my space in a way that people don't usually like. We have a feeling of space here, and just because it's VR, you still don't want someone like right here, and you really don't want someone like putting their hand in your face. And people were doing all those things to me, and I was like, what is going on? Like, this is weird. And I passed like a mirror in VR. Sometimes you go by a mirror, and I saw I was in my daughter's avatar that I was presenting as a female, and it was so educational in a way that I can't even put into words fully. Like, of course, I knew all this stuff happens to my female-bodied friends, family, strangers. I know it. I've heard the testimony. I believe them. I'm totally a believer that men are terrible in this way. Experience it myself. My body was just different. It just was. And that to me was one of the early ahas about the power of what you can do with this tool if you're being responsible, because you can use that irresponsibly, right? Like blackface voyeur, what you can't even imagine weird stuff that people, but what if you used it in the most responsible educational ways to give people experiences that they could never have in real life that would emotionally impact them as well as intellectually impact them and really reflect. So, for anyone with education on their mind, there is endless possibility, and we're just scratching the surface of that.
Mm-hmm. Oh my
Traditional,
gosh.
non-traditional, yeah, whatever.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Sorry, I'm still processing. I got sucked into that just like listening to you. I mean, that's in it's insane, but I think you're right that this is such a powerful tool, and can be used in so many different ways, and it can be a very, very powerful. I mean, even look where we are. I mean, where
I
in life
know.
do you have this beautiful, and we have pink water, behind the camera, and we've got these beautiful pink trees and green, and I mean, it's just gorgeous. And when I walked in, like my jaw dropped. It's absolutely stunning. So there is great power here if it is
Yep,
harnessed in the
that's
right
right.
way. Absolutely.
Absolutely. I know
Yeah.
I have found it for the same reason that I mentioned earlier, but I have found it really helpful to have that idea of social meditation, I think is what a lot of people call it, you know.
Yep,
So, we meditate together daily as a community, as a group, and then having that feeling of that, collective energy is very refreshing and healing. And I really very much enjoy it. Actually
yeah,
did used to do group meditation once a week, but in a like Zoom, in a virtual format,
right.
but not like this. And this is just takes it to a whole new level.
You know,
Mhm.
I can't help but miss that we think of meditation as a solitary thing for the most part, and that's just not because in some ways it is, right? I mean, you're going internal and you're just
Yeah.
supposed to be focusing inside, and so it seems like that. But when you go back to the story of the Buddha discovering the path, he was really explicit that you wanted to be with the Sangha. That this wasn't about going up to a mountain and starving yourself and being by yourself away from the world, that you need to be a part of community to really get the full benefit. And so, you know, I get why it's become connected to the aloneness. And like when you Google, like if you go to Google image search meditation, it's like a person sitting up on top of a mountain by themselves, like 10,000 pictures of that in a row. Meditation
Hmm.
is a deeply social group activity at its best. And full stop, separate idea, we are less likely to continue doing something when we're alone doing it. For the most part, humans are very social creatures. And so
Yeah.
I guarantee you that if you ask people at a
Mhm.
general Evolver meditation session to rank the top three reasons they're there, I wonder if friends or social will be number one on most people's before the meditation session itself. It got them there, it's the thing, and they know they need the meditation and it's so good for them, but the fact that they're going to be with people they know and care about and will ask about them and they'll be able to ask how's your cat, that matters so much to us. It makes so much
Mhm.
more of an impact in our lives to do this together.
Mhm.
Yes.
That's a
And we
great.
talked
I
in
think
our
that's a great
previous,
point.
sorry, we
Sorry, I was
talked
just
in
saying I
one of our
agree.
one of our previous
So.
episodes. We talked about the heart center and that whole idea of our electromagnetic field and the
Right.
energy that so it makes sense that meditation would be more powerful in
That's right.
a social um, collective environment because um, that energy it travels
And
and
Mhm.
I wonder
it
if, like, you know,
increases.
is space and time just part of the illusion of it all? And you and me sitting next to each other in real life is the same as me and you sitting next to each other in VR in the true,
Mhm.
barest, essential truth, like I think, if I'm that's the way
Mhm.
it makes sense to me at this point.
Your
Mhm.
soul is here with us.
And here is all
Yep.
one point,
Yeah, exactly.
yeah, yeah,
Mhm. Yeah. Goes back to that. There's no future. There's only here and now.
right,
That we've
exactly.
talked about that before too. Yeah.
And it's a super convenient illusion to think about space and time. It allows us to do so many things. But I mean, and I haven't transcended it at all. I really find it useful myself. I got plans tonight, but at the same time, it feels like that crackle that I talked about first experiencing with those Quakers is the same crackle that I experience in VR with 30 people in a space. So that's all I know.
Mhm. Makes sense.
I love it.
Mhm.
Jillian, do you have any
Mhm.
additional questions that we haven't asked? I had a few more, but they kind of have gotten answered as we were talking.
Mhm. No, I don't have anything written down that has not been covered.
All right.
All
This has
right.
been
Yeah,
a
because
great
that's what happened to me.
conversation. Yeah.
Very thorough in your answers, Jeremy. And then I'm like, oh, wait a second. He just answered another question I had too.
Well, I'm
So
glad I
I
got.
just thought of something.
Yeah.
So if there's someone, we have a viewer who is new to meditation and wants to get started, but they're not quite sure what to do, what would you recommend that they do?
I would make the bar as low as possible to start. I think the most important thing to do is to start. And so, whatever that is, there's the Insight meditation timer on your phone. There's YouTube clips you can pull up on your MacBook. There's, just endless little opportunities I'm sure you all are providing. So I would just say, pick a time where you know you can do it. For me, it's really important to do it first thing in the day, really early in my day, so that I know I've done it. And 5 minutes, just give yourself 5 minutes of quiet. That's how I would start. Don't have any expectations about what's going to happen in that. Just know that your thoughts will intrude and that you're going to have to forgive yourself and try to return to your breath many times. But that's it. Just a super low bar. 5 minutes of trying to follow your breath. Do that for a week and see where you're at.
Cool. Yeah, I think that's good just to have that concrete, like, what can I do, for anyone out there.
And again,
Yeah.
the Insight meditation timer is a great one that will just give you little bits of leadership for that, so you don't have to make the decision. Or you can literally just pull up YouTube and put in like 5 minute guided meditation. Boom, there'll be 150 there you can choose from. Just do it. Do something. Get started and start building that muscle.
Mm.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
Yep, I just
Yeah.
started with 10 minutes every morning, and that's where it all started.
Beautiful.
And that just
Mhm.
changed my life. 10 minutes
Yeah,
every morning changed my life completely.
I believe it.
So
Mhm. It's powerful. Yeah.
when you
Yeah,
realize that you can devote time to yourself, it's actually possible. For me, that's like really what it was. It's like I can't possibly take care of myself. I don't have any time to do that. And then it was like, okay, I I can give up 10 minutes. And then it was like,
Mhm.
wait a second. 10 minutes for just
yeah,
me, that it just was completely life changing.
that's great to hear.
Mhm. Mhm.
And if you have VR headset, then I would say download AltSpace, find Evolver on there. We got 2 or 3 sessions every day of the week with incredible session leaders if you want to step it up from there too.
Absolutely.
And Eileen, you're one of them, right?
That's right.
Yes, I am. I love meditation in VR. I love attending the sessions, but I definitely love the sessions that I lead as well. It's just that's that energy for me. Gets me every time.
Mhm.
Alrighty. Well,
Cool.
this was something
Anything
that
else?
I was very excited to do. Very, very
Mhm.
excited to record an episode in VR. And since we've talked about it
Yeah, we did
so
it.
Mhm.
much on our episodes, I'm like, people will actually get a chance
Mhm.
to see what it is we're talking about.
Neat.
Excited.
Yeah, absolutely. This was cool. This was fun. Thank you, Jeremy, again for being willing to join us and
Oh, my
take your
pleasure. Thank you
time.
so
And
much. Absolutely.
Scott, we gotta give
Yeah,
credit
thanks,
to
Scott.
Scott too, our cameraman.
Absolutely. Keeping it
Yeah,
real over
and
there.
Scott's one of our members and avid watchers of Mindset Teaching Outside the Box. Oh, glad he's
Mhm.
here with us. He's getting a sneak preview today.
Yeah.
That's right.
He's getting an early release
Yeah.
before Wednesday.
Yeah.
So
So cool. So cool.
thank you
And
to
as
everyone.
always, yeah, it's so good. And we are so grateful for all our viewers who make this possible. And thank you for listening. And come join our Facebook group, Mindset Teaching Outside the Box, for more and community. We're also on YouTube, which this episode would be really good to go check it out on
Yes,
YouTube so that you can see the virtual reality.
absolutely. We'll have to make a note on the podcast that they might want to do the YouTube episode for this week.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Alrighty. Thank you.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you.